move in to the training segment of our call. And what we've labeled this is how to win at selling final expense. Man, we're just going to give you some really super practical tips on how to succeed in selling final expense. I know, if you go on YouTube, there's a lot of, different people that put stuff on YouTube. There's a lot of different training, and we've done some training too, where the title was something like, why agents fail, or it talks about failing. I wanted to kind of reverse that a little bit and not talk about why agents fail, but really talk about what it is to win, and what does it mean to us? What does it mean to actually win in selling final expense? I think the first thing you got to do, which is important, because a lot of you have been doing this for a long time, a lot of you guys are brand new. So to me, winning in final expense, the first thing you have to do is really kind of understand the marketplace and understand the people that we're serving. I think that's important. That's something initially when I got started in final expense in 2010. That's when I took my first final expense lead ever. It was different. It was different than selling regular insurance or selling mortgage protection. And I'll just kind of go over a little bit of the differences. The one thing is that selling in final expense is that our marketplace is that we are geared more towards the, I would say, low middle to like low income. Okay, so if anybody ever tells you, oh, final expense is selling, middle market America, it's not. It's typically lower middle to lower income. Typically, the people who need just think about it. The people who need final expense are usually people in life who did a horrible job of planning. I hate to say it, but that's just the way it is. These are, good people, probably not the most educated, probably never really earned enough to be able to save money. But at the end of the day, they're good people with a good heart, and they just want to make sure that when they do pass away, they're not leaving their family with a financial burden. Does that make sense? It's different than your, if you've done like mortgage protection sales, as an example, it's a little bit different. And for me, one of the things that I initially struggled with, and I'll just tell you a little bit about, my story getting started in final expense, is that I transitioned from mortgage protection. That's what I got started on. But you think about the time frame, we're talking about, I got into the insurance business in 2009. That was no selling mortgage protection. Come on, man. The economy was horrible. I didn't know. I needed a job. I was kind of, I was desperate. Here's what I knew. I knew that I didn't want to go to work for somebody else, because I already been through that and I'd been let down. And I realized that job security with a big company was a fallacy. And I came to the realization is that the only way to have job security is if you own your job. You have to be able to own it, and preferably it's good to be in a recession-proof business. And that's what kind of drove me to the final expense, because the company I was working with, I got sold on mortgage protection, but when I got there, there was like no leads. Or if you wanted leads, sometimes they're suggesting you get on a plane and fly to a different state. That wasn't happening. Or drive 6-7 hours, get a hotel, and so you get the picture. There just wasn't leads. So got introduced to the final expense business in 2010 because there were an abundance of leads. We're never going to run out of people turning 65 and seniors that are in desperate need of high quality financial products to protect their family. When are we going to run out of those people? I don't care what's going on in the economy. This is a business that is always going to be there, because what I found out and what I love about Final Expense is that our lead generation is not predicated on how many new houses are being built or the financial market. If there's a financial crisis going on, is the stock market going up or is it going down? Do you really think that Final Expense clients care? My clients don't care. Like the stock market, like they don't even know what that is. So that's the key. But when I first got started, I want to get back. When I first got started in Final Expense, the biggest mistake that I made was that I just assumed that everybody that filled out that little card wanted to buy life insurance. And here's what was my mistake. Here's the reason why I made the mistake. Have you ever looked at a mortgage protection lead versus a Final Expense lead? Mortgage protection lead is very black and white. They usually say something like this: you may now qualify to purchase a life insurance product to cover your mortgage in the case of death, disability, or critical illness. You read that statement, you know it's a life insurance product and it's talking about purchasing it, and you know there's going to be a cost to it. With your typical Final Expense lead, they're usually a little bit more generic with the language, a little bit more ambiguous. You may get things like, hey, you may now apply for state regulated program to cover your final expenses. It's important for you to know how these benefits work. Fill out this card to get registered, for the benefits, or something like. There's probably a dozen different cards that you can fill out. They're all kind of close to the same. If you read them, most of them really don't come out and just say, hey, this is about purchasing life insurance. So back to the point is where I struggled with is that when I would go meet with these clients initially, I would start immediately talking about life insurance. Hey, this is about life insurance to cover your life. And they would always say the same thing. They'd look at me with their head kind of cocked to the side and say, life insurance? Oh, I don't need life insurance. And I'm like, Jimmy and Mike, I'm like scratching my head. I'm like, what the hell do you mean you don't need life insurance? You filled out this card. It's like driving me crazy. And guys, I blew through a lot of leads. I mean, a lot of leads. But here's the thing, at the end of the day, I knew other people were being successful. I knew it was me. I knew it was a training issue. Part of the problem was that the company I was with really didn't have any training on Final Expense. I was like their guinea pig. I was like one of the first agents ever to work Final Expense leads with that company. So there wasn't really any good training. I had to kind of figure it out all on my own, which I did. But here's what I found out. And this is kind of the psychology of the sale. Guys, what you got to remember is that our seniors that are filling out these cards, they don't want to buy life insurance. Like, they're not filling out the card because they want to buy life insurance. I hate to tell you that. Do you know why they're filling out the card? For one reason and one reason only. They're filling out the card because they just want to make sure is that when they do pass away, they're not leaving their family with a financial burden. Now, we all know that the solution to their problem is life insurance, right? I mean, it seems like it's kind of common sense. But what I noticed is that when I started working with these Final Expense clients and I started focusing on solving the problem versus selling a product, guys, my sales drastically increased. I mean, it was incredible. It was like overnight. I mean, I went from not making any sales to like everybody said yes. And you know what I did? I stopped using the word life insurance. And all I did is I just changed the vocation. And just think about just listen to the words coming out of my mouth just for a second. What was it that George Bush said? Read my lips or something like that. So all I did was change to saying, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Client, the reason why most people fill out this card is that they want to put a life insurance program in place to cover their funeral costs. Sounds pretty simple. I just implemented, Mr. and Mrs. Client, I've been doing this for quite a while, or our company sends out thousands of these letters every week. And the people that respond tell us that the main reason why they filled out the card, they just want to make sure is that when they do pass away, they're not leaving their family with a financial burden. Jim, was that your concern as well? And people started saying yes. Well, yeah, that was why I filled out the card. Well, great, that's why I'm here. Out of curiosity, do you know how these programs work? So it took time to develop what I'm just telling you what you have in place now with Senior Solutions, the whole selling system. It didn't happen overnight. It took a long time to put the processes in place. So before we move on, my big thing with you guys is understanding the market that we're in, and simply just remember the product that we're selling, life insurance, is not the most important thing. It's the service that we're providing. It's the peace of mind that we're giving our clients. So if you can just have a little change of your mindset and think, oh, I sell life insurance, man, we're selling peace of mind. We're selling a promise. We're giving our clients pride, and we're giving them dignity, that they know that they have the ability to pass away, and they have the dignity that they're going to leave their family in a good financial position where no one's going to be burdened. That's the market that we serve. So Jimmy and Mike, I'll turn it back over to you. Anything you'd like to add in regards to we'll just talk maybe a little bit more about the market that we serve.
Joe, I'd like to, you made an excellent, I guess you can say, picture. You drew an excellent picture of like how to approach it and the why we do it that way. And I can tell you this, if you're a new agent coming on board and you looked and you read, like the secret, the magic formula, rather, the secret to selling final expense, and you read through it, maybe it sounded hokey to you. Maybe it sounded like, oh, that doesn't sound like me. I don't talk that way. And you just, ignored it or moved on and do your own thing, and then you're not successful. What you have to do is make it your own. You have to practice saying it the way Joe just said it. And when that is incorporated into your vocabulary, and when you internalize that, and then you're able to articulate that to your client, then you're going to have an enormous amount of success, because what it expresses to the individual is that you care. And then when you provide the solution, which just happens to be a life insurance product, they go with it. But Joe hit it right on the head. When you go in there talking about a life insurance and you start talking about getting a quote, you haven't built any value, you haven't built any trust. And until they know that you care, it's going to make it much harder to sell. So, use that vocabulary, make it your own. The one example that I can give is, like Joe talked about sports earlier and somebody being athletically inclined. If you think about tennis, let's say there's somebody that has the natural athletic ability to play tennis, and let's say they're 14 years old, and they go to their first, they sign up for tennis in high school in as a freshman, and they go to their first coaching session. And then there's another individual that, let's say, doesn't have that natural ability. Maybe they're a little awkward, if anything, right? And the person that does have that natural ability, it's not for them. It doesn't really interest them. They kind of drop it. They go play football, baseball, basketball. They go do something else. But this one kid that was a little awkward stuck with it, and they practiced and they drilled and they rehearsed, and 4 years go by, and now they're both seniors, right? And they're gonna, the one with natural ability wants to go ahead and get back into it. He wants to play that kid that been practicing, drilling, and rehearsing for 4 years. Who do you think's gonna win?
Yeah.
Right? It's the one that practices, drills, and rehearse. And so put yourself in that scenario and learn the vocabulary, internalize it, and make it your own. And you will see a huge improvement in your closing ratio. So, I mean, I'll turn it over to Michael.
Gentlemen, I don't think I could have said any better. And really, the foundational principle of this business, which Joe and Jimmy have hit on so well, is that this is a compassion, not commissions business. And one thing that me and Jimmy and Joe tell the agents that sometimes they give us the puzzled look, and it's something very counterintuitive, is, ladies and gentlemen, we're not out there to write business. No, we're out there to take care of seniors. And we're out there to educate them by giving our presentation in its entirety each and every time, because an educated client is a motivated client. And when we show that compassion, when we share the story that's going to change their lives, the commissions, ladies and gentlemen, are just a byproduct of doing the right thing. Because I'm here to tell you, if you go out just the right business, our clients can smell commission breath a mile away. No, they want someone that's going to care about them, because Joe, as you put it so succinctly so many different times, people just don't care how much you know. Do they know how much you care? So remember, the foundational principle of this business before you start anything is that this is a compassion, not commissions business. And that's what you got to be properly prepared and know the senior solutions presentation inside and out, so you truly can care about these people and give them their best options. So back over to you, Joe.
Thanks, buddy. Yeah, guys, learn the presentation, memorize the presentation, but just remember, at the end of the day, you got to sell from your heart. My business didn't change overnight. My business didn't change in final expense until I started selling from my heart and really started caring about about the clients. Now, guys, I know a lot of people, this is a live webinar, obviously, but we do get a lot of people that check us out on YouTube. Hey man, if you're finding value in the content that what we're providing, do me a favor, man, just subscribe to our channel. Doesn't cost you anything. It's a free channel, and we work really, really hard to bring some valuable content. In fact, let me just see here real quick. I'm just going to scroll through everybody who's on here. Yeah, here we go. Okay. I just want to see if this particular person was on the call, which they are. I got a really interesting call yesterday, guys. As you guys know, I'm still down in Florida. I'm leaving tomorrow. Been down here for 3 weeks, spending some time with my mom, helping her out with some stuff. But I was at my my little desk that I have set up here yesterday, and I got a call from it was a New York area code. I just assumed it was one of our agents, because we got some agents in Florida. We got a lot of agents in Florida that have New York area code. So anyway, I answered the call and say, "Hey, this is Joe. How can I help you?" That kind of thing. And this lady, who now she lives in New Jersey, she said, "Is this Joe?" I'm like, "Yeah, this is Joe. Who's this?" Yeah, I didn't know who it was. First of all, she sounded surprised that I answered the phone. And she said to me, she goes, "I just want to tell you, you've changed my life." I'm like, oh, okay. This was an interesting conversation. So she proceeded to tell me how she had um, she'd came across Prosperity life insurance. She contacted Prosperity. Prosperity referred her to a really huge FMO. So she ended up getting contracted with them. And what she found out was is that contract came with no support. It was just a contract. That was it. So very determined to make it in insurance, she started to just do research and going on the web and going to YouTube and different things like that. And through her search, she came across Senior Solutions. And she just wanted to reach out to me and just thank me for all the content that we provide at no cost for free, regardless of whether you're on our team or not. And I just thought that was pretty cool. I get probably one or two calls like that a month, but this one seemed to be very sincere, very special. But anyway, it was just, I thought it was kind of a something neat that kind of happened yesterday. So to the point is that guys, we do work really, really hard to put together great content. I know there's a lot of other insurance trainers that are, do webinars, but if you really evaluate the content that's being provided, most of the content that is on YouTube is very superficial. Most of the trainers out there don't want to give you the secrets unless you're on their team and they're making an override off of you. I tell you what, man, we're different. We want to provide value to everybody, whether or not you're on our team. Man, I could care less. If you want to call me direct, you guys know where my number is. Even if you're not part of Senior Solutions, on every YouTube that we publish, I put my cell phone right on that, and I get calls all the time. So with that, let's get back into the what we were talking about as far as how to win at selling final expense. We talked about the marketplace. So the next thing we want to talk about is, once you understand the marketplace, what is it going to take to win? Well, I believe if you're going to win at anything, whether it be final expense, any type of sales, is that you have to self-develop. And when I'm talking about self-development, is that if you wanted to lose weight and get your body in good physical fitness, you have to go to the gym. You have to work out. If you don't go to the gym, you have to do cardio, push-ups, sit-ups. I mean, there's a lot of different things. You have to have a workout for your body. Well, guys, if you want to be at your best in sales, you need a personal workout for your brain. It's about self-development, about improving. If you're not reading every day, if you're not reading new articles, if you're not watching videos that not only are just motivational videos and inspirational videos, but videos with actual content. And Jimmy mentioned it before about in the last segment that we were talking about. He talked about rehearsing and drilling. Dude, that's part of your self-development. Self-development is developing your people skills. And there's amazing books out there how to develop your people skills, how to really understand the psychology of the sale. And if you're just out there winging it and you're not out there working on getting better, man, you're going to plateau. You're going to get to a certain level and you're never going to get better. You have to constantly be working on improving. And the cool thing about your brain, man, there's no limit to what your brain can absorb, but you got to exercise it. Super important in developing your sales skills. So we'll just talk about sales skills for a little bit. And Jimmy used the analogy about the two teenage kids. One was super athletic, had tons of ability. The other one was a little bit awkward. but that awkward kid kept drilling and drilling and drilling and getting better. Repetition, repetition, repetition. Guys, that's what it takes in this business. I don't know if you're listening to this call, I'm not sure if everybody knows who Grant Cardone is, but if you've read any of his books, he's always talking about this phrase 10x. 10x it. You got to 10x it, baby. 10x it, 10x it. Do you guys know what 10x means? 10x is about increasing your activity level. Whatever you're doing now, it ain't enough. 10 times it. You know, that's the key to success is drilling. In some of the books I've read and some of the training I've done with Grant, he talks about daily training, man. And when you're brand new, you've got to train every single day. You've got to drill, learn that in-home presentation. I promise you, I mean, you watch those videos and you read the magic formula, it may initially look a little like, oh my God, I'll never be able to learn this. Guys, I promise you, you can knock it out in a day. You can have that whole thing memorized if you just drill it. I can remember back in, oh my God, 90, I want to say 90, 92. I'm kind of dating myself here. 92. Before I got into the insurance business, I was in the car business for 20 years, different roles, but 20 years. I spent 5 years on the floor selling from 88, I want to say to 92. 92, I got promoted. They wanted to make me an F&I guy, the finance manager. In order to do that, I had to go to school. And in that school, I think it was a 2-week school, but part of the process is every day was memorizing and drilling. I'd go to school, I'd come home and I'd drill with my wife for 3 hours. I'd make her sit at the kitchen table and I would just drill, practice, practice, practice. They use videotaping, and they would videotape us and we'd have to play it back and they'd critique it and drill and drill and drill and drill. Do you guys know I can still pretty much recite all of those scripts verbatim 30 years later, almost 30 years later? It's because when you memorize something and you drill it, it sticks in your brain. It's muscle memory. It sticks in it forever. So my point is that, and it's not too late to do it. Like, listen, if you've been semi-successful in selling insurance or finally, it's not too late to just scrap what you're doing, go back to the beginning and learn and drill. Because if you're just kind of winging it and you really don't have a system, you got a system, but it's not maybe the best system, it's not too late. You can go back, you can relearn it. I've taken agents that have been in insurance for 30 years with what I would say mediocre success, okay? And got them to commit that they would forget about what they were doing and just relearn it. Just relearn the system, relearn the senior solution system. And I promise you, if you duplicate it, you will get results. But the beauty about sales skills, and Jimmy alluded to this, it takes zero talent. This is our business is not based on how talented you are. Talent's overrated, man. Usually the most talented people are typically the laziest people. I'll take someone who's not that talented but has extremely good work ethic over the talented salesperson who, oh, I don't need to learn, I don't need to do that. I can just go out, I can roll out of bed and write 3,000. Okay, well, awesome. But is your system transferable and duplicatable? You'll never be able to teach anybody what you're doing if what you're doing is not transferable and duplicatable. What we have at Senior Solutions is a duplicatable system. That's what separates us from the guy who's just going out there and winging it. So self-development, learning sales scripts, learning sales skills, which includes drilling, rehearsing, learning all the scripts, and then memorizing all the objections. Having the objections down so pat that you don't have to think about it. When a client gives you any type of an objection, well, let me think about it. Mr. and Mrs. Client, you should think about it. This is an important decision, and while you're thinking about it, you're going to have questions, aren't you? And then, just be able to just have everything at your fingertips, So, Jimmy, before we go on to the next, Jimmy or Mike, anything that you'd like to add in just about self-development or sales skills?
Mike, I'll let you go first.
Yeah, I'll just be very succinct on this one, Joe.
Okay,
Repetition beat inspiration every single time, because repetition creates the most powerful force in life and sales, which is habit. When I meet these guys, Joe and Jimmy, doing $300,000 and $400,000 a year, it's just a habit. One guy, he's just in a habit of every morning leaving his house every Sunday night, preparing his leads, leaves his house every morning at 6 a.m, works to dark Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, does his paperwork on Thursday, takes off half a day Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and he makes $400,000 a year, because just like you said, Joe, he has drilled this so many times that it's just second nature to reply to any objection. It's just second nature to give his presentation like it's a part of him. So always remember that, guys and ladies and gentlemen. Just like Joe says, he will take someone who has grit, who has pure grit, who has drive over talent any day of the week, because repetition beats inspiration, because repetition leads to habit. So to you, Jimmy.
Awesome.
Thank you. Well, I think that you need to schedule time to do the self-development, and you want to schedule that time on non-producing activity times. In other words, like if it's during the week and you're at the house at 10, 11, 12 o'clock and you're trying to practice, drill, and rehearse, and you're trying to self-develop, you're doing yourself a disfavor. You need to do that when you're not able to produce. So your number one thing is you need to be in front of somebody to be successful, right? So this producing, time, you don't want to take away from it. So when should you self-develop? Either early morning or late evening, and then that way you're not taking away from your income producing activity time. So that's the only spin I want to put on it. So back to you, Joe.
Yeah, that's a good point, Jimmy. Guys, one thing if you haven't downloaded Audible, I would definitely Audible and subscribe. It's books on audio, and you can do it on the fly. You can do it in your car when you're driving. The other thing too, which is good, is that we make all these great training sessions available on YouTube. You don't have to be sitting at home in front of your computer. You can pull the channel up on your phone. Play it through your car, listen to all the different scripts that we have. It's easy to do. I got agents that tell me all the time, man, I listen to you all the time when I'm driving to appointments. I'm listening about, how to do the proper door knock, how to overcome objections. Now I had this, Michael, you touched on it, you mentioned it. I had it written down on my notes a little bit later in the call, but I'm going to go ahead and just repeat it. And I'm going to ask everybody on this call, do me a favor, grab a pen and paper and just write these 6 words down, 7 words that will change your life. It'll change it'll change your perspective of life. And it's this: your daily habits will determine your success. Again, your daily habits will determine your success. Another way of saying it is what I say all the time is what you do daily defines you. If you watch TV all day, that's who you are, man. You're a TV addict. You're a couch potato, man. Get off your couch and go to work. We talk about Grant Cardone a lot, and self-development, and he talks about 10xing it and increasing your activity. Guys, Grant Cardone didn't invent that. He's just taken it to a new level. People have been saying that for hundreds of years. I'm going to give you a quote. Let me pull this on my screen here from Dale Carnegie. I think everybody knows who Dale Carnegie is. If you don't, you need to figure it out. But here's a quote, one of his famous quotes. It says, "Inaction breeds doubt and fear. Action breeds confidence and courage. If you want to conquer fear, don't sit at home and think about it. Go out and get busy." And to me, that kind of sums up this whole call. Is like, dude, stop getting ready to get ready. I mean, there's, paralysis by analysis. We've all heard that saying before. Dude, it's time to go out and go do something. It's most agents fail because of inactivity. The next thing we want to talk to you about really how to win in selling and final expense is the product training, product knowledge. This is probably one of the most boring parts of what we got to do, but it's important. And when I say about product training, okay, product knowledge, let me dive a little bit deeper, because all of these products that we sell, they're pretty simple. I mean, the product is easy. These are non-participating whole life products, guys. So what does that mean? Is that if they take out a $10,000 policy, 10 years from now, 30 years from now, it's still only going to be worth 10 grand. Yes, it builds cash value, but the cash value does not get added to the death benefit. So there's not a lot of moving parts to the policies that we're selling. The concept of the policy is very, very easy. If you know one of them, they all pretty much do the same, whether it's Transamerica, Liberty Bankers, Royal Neighbors, CVS, whoever. The products are all basically the same. What differentiates the products, so I screwed that word up, what separates the products from one another is the underwriting criteria. So if you can learn basically how the whole life, the final expense life insurance product works, that concept is the same across every single product. They all work the same. But what's different is who will accept, who will accept diabetes before age 50 with insulin, with or without complications? Who will accept diabetes with insulin after the age of 50 better? What if you have a combination? What if they have diabetes and COPD and had a heart attack 2 years ago? When we talk about knowing your product, that's really what we're talking about, is studying the underwriting guidelines. Now, here at Senior Solutions, we do make your job a little bit easier, and we put together a very comprehensive cheat sheet that has, I would say, 15 to 20 of the top things that we come across. Like here, I got it right here. We come across heart attack, heart surgery, stroke, congestive heart failure, AFib, pacemaker implant, COPD, oxygen, Alzheimer's, bipolar, schizophrenia, Parkinson's, cerebral palsy, multiple sclerosis, diabetes, kidney disease, renal insufficiency, renal failure, hepatitis B and C, liver disease, cirrhosis of the liver, internal cancer, systemic lupus, wheelchair use, blood thinner use, height and weight questions. That's everything that's on the cheat sheet right there, kind of at a glance. But one of the things that I did, and I know Jimmy did it too, is that every time we bring on a new carrier, man, it's boring as heck, but what do? The first thing I do, to learn the product, I don't learn the product, I learn the underwriting guidelines. I get the 30 or 40 page underwriting guideline booklet and start reading through all the health questions and highlighting stuff. That's the difference between the products, guys. So product knowledge, yeah, that's pretty easy, man. But if you really want to get good at final expense and you really want to win in final expense, the best tip I can give you is don't try to go out and have 10 or 15 different products in your portfolio. You really only need 3. You need 3 major carriers with multiple tiers of coverage, and you need 1, maybe 2 guaranteed issue companies. Okay? So when you're new, and I'm telling you this, even when I was producing, I'll just tell you this point, the best year ever that I had in final expense, I only had 2 products. That was the best year I ever had. 2 products. I had a product for normal people, and I had a guaranteed issue product. That was it. Best year I ever had in personal sales. Now, what I recommend is that have just 3 carriers. That's all you need. 3 carriers. Even up until recently, even earlier this year, when I went out and did some sales, man, when I go out into the field, my portfolio that I have, it's really only 3 carriers. That's it. Now, a lot of times people will ask me, well, what carriers are the best carriers? My answer is very simple. The best carrier is the carrier that you're contracted with. That's the best carrier. I mean, all these carriers are great. They all bring great stuff to the table. So if you're new and you think, oh, I can't get this company because I have my contract with another IMO and they won't give me a release, who cares? There's plenty of companies out there. Guys, we're contracted with, I think, a total of 23 carriers. Not all are final expense, but I'm sure we have at least 15, 16 final expense carriers. So what carrier you use isn't the problem. It's not which carrier is better than the other. It's knowing the carriers that you have in your tool belt, knowing the carriers that you have in your arsenal, understanding their underwriting guidelines. So when you're sitting with that client and you're doing the health interview, and I'm going through the health questions, and I'm asking him about, hey, do you take anything for diabetes? What medications are you on? What do you take medications for? Well, I take diabetes. Oh, not a problem. Out of curiosity, Mrs. Smith, when did you first get diagnosed with diabetes? Well, I was 37 years old. Okay. Are you taking insulin or do you just take pills? What type of diabetes is it? Oh no, it's type 1. I take pills. I take insulin. Okay. So now I know I've got someone who is, diagnosed in their 30s. They take insulin. Mrs. Smith, out of curiosity, have you ever had any complications with your diabetes? Have you ever experienced insulin shock, diabetic coma, neuropathy? No, I've never had anything. Okay. So then knowing what carrier, and if you really have it just narrowed down to like 3 carriers, you'll know which carrier to go with. But if you're going out into the field with like 7 carriers, that's how agents get overwhelmed. In my experience, overwhelmed agents do nothing because they're overwhelmed. Like, oh my God, what carrier do I use? What carrier do I use? I'm like, simplify it.
Amen.
Just have 3 carriers. And what I used to do, I swear to God, I would have, because what's cool about final expense is that the actual application itself is the underwriting guideline. So they would come up with a health issue. I wouldn't call anybody. I just get all 3 applications and start reading through them until I narrowed it down and say, oh, well, this is what we're going with. Now we've invented things like, hey, how about if we do a cheat sheet? Jimmy, you had something you wanted to add?
Well, I totally think if you're new, just go with 1 carrier for everything, and then 1 carrier for guaranteed issue. So, I guess you can say 2 carriers,
Yeah.
and then add on gradually. That way you can totally learn it. I mean, like I remember when I first started, all I had was Mutual of Omaha. And because I only had Mutual of Omaha, I could close anybody. I mean, they were either going to go level or graded, but I mean, I was writing up everybody and Gerber, for a guaranteed issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you have one solution there with a really, household name. People really love Mutual of Omaha, Wild Kingdom, all that stuff. They're familiar with them. Go with one carrier. Um,
Even easy, you know what? That even simplifies it even more.
and,
I
and
mean,
then,
that's all you need is one. I mean,
yeah,
ideally, all you need is one carrier.
and then they have other products. You got Children's Whole Life, the accidental death. You have the term. You have the IUL, the GULE. You have Mutual of Omaha offers so much. Even dental. You got Medicare supplements. I mean, like, so really and truly, like, one carrier can handle everything that you got.
Mhm.
But wait until you get totally proficient, and then add another feather, in your quiver, and then learn a second carrier. But Joe's absolutely right. I can just tell you, that my main 2 companies are Mutual of Omaha and Transamerica. I love those 2 companies. Uh, those are my go-to. If I wanted to add a third one, uh, just doing some recent activity and work with it, Prosperity, I really like their program. I was on the phone with Joe in the morning yesterday talking about it, and then I got a call back from them. I mean, right away. Normally, when you have to leave a message for a carrier, like, you're going to wait forever for that call back. They call me back immediately. And what I loved about them was how enthusiastic and eager they were to help me and to walk me through everything. Like, most of the time, you don't get that kind of enthusiasm from a carrier. They're kind of like, they're kind of meh, right? Or in some cases, you feel like you're bothering them, right? But like with Prosperity, like, they were just like so eager to help me, so helpful, and answer a lot of questions. I mean, like, they're really easy to work with. And I'm not talking about like behind the scenes. I'm talking about like to make your sell. You got so many different options, and I mean, that's a good third one right there, Joe. I really like them. So
Awesome.
turn that back over to you.
Awesome. Guys, the next thing we're going to talk about in winning at selling final expense is prospecting. So we're talking about massive action. We're talking about 10xing your business. The biggest thing I can tell you about prospecting is that most agents totally underestimate the amount of prospecting it requires to be successful. It takes, I mean, you've got to be a professional prospector. You've got to have daily prospecting habits, regardless of what type of leads that you're getting. Even if you're paying big money for fresh direct mail leads or Facebook leads, guys, I'm just telling you, you don't underestimate the amount of prospecting that's required. It's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of work. And where I think a lot of agents, the reason why they don't succeed, they just don't prospect enough. They give up too easy. Man, you got to be willing to call that lead 15 times, be willing to go out and door knock it, leave delivery notices. You've got to be relentless. It's about, nothing good is going to happen until you can get in front of that client and make a presentation. And, we've got other training videos that talk about prospecting, what it requires. If you're selling over the phone, if you're doing telesales, we had a call on this the other day. Man, if you're not on the phone at least 6 hours a day prospecting, 6 hours of actual dial time, there's no way you're going to make it. If you're taking direct mail leads and you're not pounding the phone to book appointments, if you're not getting up early and getting on those leads at 8:30 in the morning and continuously dialing, if you're not out door knocking those leads either to book appointments immediately or to do preset appointments, man, you're not going to make it. Prospecting is a huge part of what we do. And prospecting is easy. Prospecting just takes intestinal fortitude. It takes the willingness never to give up. It doesn't take any talent. Do you have to be talented to get in your car or to load up Road Warrior on your phone as a GPS and plug in 30 addresses and go run a route like a UPS driver and leave delivery notices and knock on doors? That doesn't take any talent. It takes work ethic. It takes the willingness to do whatever it takes.
Takes courage, Joe.
It takes courage, man. It does. That's all it takes. That's one of the it's like talking about how much I like Grant Cardone. He has lots of really, like, I'd say, inspirational sayings. And there's the old saying that it takes money to make money. And Grant Cardone says it doesn't take money to make money. It takes courage to make money. That's all you need, man. You got to have courage to go out there and do it. And here's, man, if I could give anybody a little bit of some motivation or some inspiration, is this, think of it this, is that every goal that you want to achieve has already been completed, has already been done by somebody else before you. So the fact that you're thinking, oh, it's not attainable, of course it's obtainable. People before you have done it. And if it's been done once, it's been done twice. It's been done 3 times. Think of the guy, who's the guy that broke the 4-minute mile? Banner, what was his name? Roger
Banner, I don't know.
Banner? Well, so back however long, it wasn't even 100 years ago, but I think it maybe was in the 40s or something, that if what we're talking about is the 4-minute mile, being able, a human to be able to run a mile in under 4 minutes. Before he did it, there were scientists and doctors that said it was not possible. It was physically not possible that if you ran for that fast for that long, that the human heart would literally explode. But after Banner did it, everybody started doing it. I mean, his record was broke, I think, like a week after he did it.
Yep.
And it
Bannister, Roger Bannister.
Bannister, there you go, the English guy. I know the story, I just don't know the name. So my point is that if you want to run a 4-minute mile, know that it's possible because millions of people have already done it. If you're listening to this call and you think, man, I want to be successful in final expense, I want to go out, I want to be able to make 100,000, 200,000, 300,000, 400,000. Maybe you have a goal of 500,000. Well, guess what? It's achievable because it's already been done. Every goal that you want to hit in sales is achievable because it's already been done. You just have to go out there and do the work. And if I can do it, Jimmy can do it, Michael can do it, hundreds of other agents can do it. That should give you the encouragement and the inspiration and the motivation to know that you can do it. The only thing that's holding you back is what? What's holding you back? Just doing the work.
Hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
I want to say something here because you asked a really good question. What's holding you back? Most of the time it's fear, right? Most of the time, but not all the time. I want to just give a couple of scenarios from my experience working with agents. Another thing that holds people back is they're too analytical. You kind of touched to that earlier. Most of the analytical people, they have to know every single thing about something before they actually move forward on it. And I'm analytical myself, so I'm totally in that space, and I get it. But one thing that I didn't have when I came on board with Senior Solutions was time. My back was against the wall, and I had a lot of, I guess you can say, urgency that I needed to sell right away. And so literally when I got my leads in, I studied the magic formula over and over and over. One day on a Friday, Saturday, I made all my calls. and Sunday I made calls to book appointments for Monday, and then I went out and I just had to do it. I didn't have the luxury to stay at home and study and to get totally organized and get totally comfortable. I didn't have the luxury. I had an urgent, pressing need financially that I just couldn't do that, right? And so I say that because sometimes you have to recognize where you're at. You have to be honest with yourself and ask, what's holding me back? And when you identify the true root, what is the real cause of what's holding you back? Is it fear? Is it because you're too analytical? What is the reason it's holding you back? And then put something in place to create that urgency, and then force yourself to go out there and do it, because you have to. Even though I had a pressing need and I was urgent, my back was against the wall, I still had to force myself to break through my uncomfort with this new sales, I guess you can say, system. I had to learn new vocabulary. It wasn't the way I spoke, but I had to press through it, right? So sometimes you have to get uncomfortable before you get comfortable. And so, my thing is create that urgency and reward yourself. I mean, if you're in dire straits financially, obviously you just need to make money and to get your situation fixed, right? But maybe you're not in that arena. Maybe you're okay financially. Well, reward yourself. So maybe, like in where I'm at today, right? I don't have that pressing need. So I replace it with desire. I collect a lot of cool stuff, right? I collect flashlights, knives, I collect guns, I collect watches, I collect shoes. I have more shoes than my wife, right? So whenever I want something, I don't let myself buy it until I achieve a certain goal or objective. And that's how I create my urgency, because sometimes I really want this knife really, really bad, and I could go buy it, but I won't let myself buy it until I go do what I have to do. So I'm just saying, ask yourself what it is that's holding you back. Create that urgency, and go out there and do it. So because sometimes you have the drive within you, and sometimes you have to create or manufacture that drive, and you have to ask yourself the right questions to figure out what that solution is going to be for you. So Joe, I'll give it back to you.
Amen to that, brother. Well, listen, man, I was just having so much fun on this call. I didn't even realize what time it is. So I apologize for everybody that we're running a little bit long. Hey, Michael, let me flip it over to you, brother. And why don't you give us some good words of inspiration and motivation, and close us out.
Sounds good, Joe. And ladies and gentlemen, I have learned so much from this call myself, and we're in a continuous learning phase. Being with Senior Solutions is almost like being in a leadership academy. And I learn every single day, and some are just a little bit further down the continuum. The one thing you got to learn about any business you get into, ladies and gentlemen, is at most businesses have what we have called counterintuitive truths, things that you just can't actually believe is true about that business. But I want to close out by really sharing 4 of those counterintuitive truths with you. We've already talked about the first one, that this is a compassion, not commissions game. Often we tell agents that your number one priority is not the right business. They really look at us very confused. But no, your number one priority is to give presentations, which is how you help people, how you educate people on all their options as it pertains to taking care of your commissions. But the second thing, and the one thing that Jimmy and Joe have been hitting on over and over, ladies and gentlemen, success is a process, not only in business, but in life. And there's really 3 stages that you proceed through in the final expense industry. Number one is the learning curve, those first 9 to 120 days. And ladies and gentlemen, we expect you to lean heavily on Senior Solutions during that time period. You need that trusted advisor. You are going to get your lip a little bloated. You are going to get your knees a little skinned up. But you're breaking through that brick wall. You're breaking through that learning stage. The second stage is the seeing is believing, when you're going to get your first balance of first year commissions as well as renewals. And then the third stage is making it between years 1 and 3 and 4, where you're truly going to have a large enough book of business where you can start enjoying that financial freedom we're all looking for. So ladies and gentlemen, the second counterintuitive truth is that success in business, just like in life, is understanding it is a process. Number 3, Jimmy and Joe, you hit it on so perfectly, is that this is an activity-driven business. It's not being that smooth talker or charismatic that makes you successful. It's simply STPing it, just seeing the people, as there's no activity, running applications without activity. Then last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, it's not the business that you write that counts, it's the business that keeps. So just remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a process and it all starts with you. You're what I sort of call the franchise owner, and me, Jimmy, and Joe, we're franchise support. You're part of the Senior Solutions team and the Senior Solutions family. And even though you're in business for yourself, you're never by yourself. We're with you every step of the way. And just to take it one step further, if you're willing to humble yourself, I love the old saying, God favors the bold and the humble. If you're willing to humble yourself and almost become a mentee to Senior Solutions, this can almost be an open book test. So ladies and gentlemen, as we wrap this up here, I want to assure you of something. You're at the right place in the right time in history. There's never been a better time to be in the senior market than now. And you're with the right organization, Senior Solutions, because there's no other company out there that cares more about your success. So the choice is really in your lap right now, the decision you make. We want you to lean on us. We want you to leverage the mentorship of Senior Solutions, and we'll be with you every step of the way as you succeed. So with that, Mr. Joe Johnson, Mr. Jimmy Hernandez, thank you for so much for your wisdom and guidance today. We never want to take it for granted. Thank you, Senior Solutions family members. We're here for you, and have a great weekend. And just remember, whether you succeed or not, that power is within you. God bless. Everybody have a great weekend. Thank you, Joe and Jimmy. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Michael. Bye, Jimmy.
Bye.
Bye-bye.